Advanced Health Education Center, AHEC in Houston, Texas, has been your continuing education partner since 1988. AHEC introduces SERT, Stackable Education for the Radiologic Technologist. Modality training in mammography, CT, bone densitometry, breast ultrasound, and so much more. With staffing shortage challenges that are getting worse, departments are getting creative and upskilling and supporting their staff technologists with modality training. AHEC provides webinar, in-person, and on-site corporate-style training options customized for your needs. Contact us today and let us know how we can help certify your team.
Howdy and welcome. It's Melanie Hale with the Radiology Roundup podcast. Today's guest is Mr. Christopher Daza. Chris is the program director of the Houston Community College Radiography program in Houston, Texas, in the Texas Medical Center. Chris and I go way back. I've known Chris for a long time, and I'm so thrilled to still have him in my network of colleagues, and to call him a friend. And a little background on Chris. Chris is currently pursuing his doctoral degree at the University of Houston. He has a master's degree in education from the University of Houston, specializing in health science and curriculum and instruction. He has a background as a radiographer, a computed tomography technologist, and worked all across the Houston area. He also has worked in education at with various hats over time with Lone Star College and Houston Community College, as well as the College of Healthcare Professions. In 2017, Christopher was awarded the HCC ACE Award, given to one health science faculty with exceptional history of excellence. He also went on to win the Faculty Teaching Excellence Award in 2021. He has won 2 Excellence in Academics Award from the College of Healthcare Professions in June 2021 and February 2023. Most recently, Chris received the Texas Society of Radiologic Technologists Sharing Coffee Educator of the Year Award in 2024. Welcome, Chris. I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said before, anything for you.
Well, I appreciate that so much. I know you are so busy with your program, a lot of new initiatives that you're getting started and launching. Chris, tell me a little about your full-time radiography program and the background there.
Yeah, definitely. So the full-time program we have at Houston Community College, it's the program I graduated from, 13 years ago. It's a great program, 6 semesters, Monday through Friday during the day. And so this program itself, we've done a lot over the course of the past, I would say 3 or 4 years since I've become the director, to really make our program more student focused. And so we've done a lot of build up with, a culture that students would want to be a part of. This is not just my initiative, but it's something that a lot of our faculty have really bought into. When I first took over our program was graduating at like a 60% pass rate or a retention rate, meaning we would lose at least half of our class nearly every year. We've done a lot to really strengthen those bonds that we have with students, really let them know that, we're here for them. And when we do that, really students themselves can buy into that in its own. And we see a lot of successes with what we have placed. And there's a lot of things that our students have really done to continue a trend, right? They've continued to trend to success. Our retention rates are now in the 90s. So if you think about it, going from 60 to 90% retention rates is no small feat, right? And, I really thank all our faculty who have done, everything in their power to really push our students forward. We hold tutoring hours outside of regular class time. We come in on Saturdays to open our labs so our students can practice. We've done a lot of things to really show students we care. And when you do that, I think students respond to it. And when they respond to it, the successes will flourish in your program. So, our program, I think, has a really solid foundation. We have now started sending our students to the state society meeting when in 13 years beforehand, we didn't. And so we actually sent, I think, 37 students last year, and we're looked to send the same amount this year, which I think would be one of the bigger groups of students that attends our state conference. And so, like I said, we want to build our students to not just be great radiographers, but also advocates of their profession themselves. So,
wow, that's incredible. And to get the faculty to buy into that and be behind that and do those extra supporting measures for students, evenings, weekends, tutoring. That's incredible. What would you say? And my mind's going in a bunch of directions hearing you say these things, Chris. What would you say to that program that is having trouble getting the buy-in from their faculty? How do you get them motivated to do that and to get going?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I really take into account is, myself as the leader of the program. You have to have a vision, right? So you have to have a vision. When I took over program director, I told our faculty, we're going to be the best program in Houston, right? That's flat out said it. That is our goal. We should try to achieve it. Even if we're not, because there's many great programs in Houston, as long as we're shooting towards a goal, that we all share, then we'll get at least close to it, right? And so, when we started early on, that was the whole focus, is having a vision that makes sense. But when you have a vision, the hardest part about having a vision is execution, right? So how do we execute that goal of being the best program? And so, you really have to look at the processes that your program has in place. I think that we had to do a sweeping dive of everything we were doing because, when I took over, it's kind of like there's a saying that I heard that, the worst thing that somebody from a failed organization can say is, this is the way it's always been done, right? Because if it's always right, and so if it's always been done the same way, and there was no progress from it, why do we keep doing it the same way? Right. And so initially, we had to do a deep dive of the processes we had in place for student success. And so once we saw those processes, then we can establish, hey, this is what we need to do to combat it, and let's try it. And I think, I'm taking some leadership classes now in our doctoral program, and a lot of the things they say is the things we did. We just didn't know that's the theory behind it, But giving faculty the autonomy to do their job is important. I think, I'm not here to micromanage you. Everybody here has been a technologist for so long, and you've been professionals for so long. Now you're going into an educator role, which is new, but the same professional attributes that you had as a technologist should carry over to being an educator. And so trusting your faculty to do what they need to do is important. If you see things, you can make suggestions and steer people in the right direction, but giving them the autonomy to do what they think is is best is how I operate, because my whole thing is, if something goes wrong, hey, we just found out what we don't need to do. It's not that, oh, we made a mistake, let's reprimand you to the fullest. No, that to me is not the way to lead, right? Every idea that we can have, as long as you have ideas, that's for the better of our program, right? You're thinking in from a standpoint that this is what I think might work, let's do it. And I have no doubt that if that's what somebody wants to do, I will back them fully. If we find out it's not the right thing, hey, like I said before, we learned that it's not something we need to do. But without trying, you never know. And a lot of the things are built on that, because I give our freedom to our faculty to do what they feel they need to make sure our program's successful. And a lot of the things stem from the faculty. They are the ones doing the work. They are the ones teaching the classes. They're the ones that are building the rapport with students. So you have to trust them to be able to do their job. And you, as a leader, as the program director, you're there to steer them if they need help and guidance, right? And so, just the things that I've picked up on over the course of the years I've been teaching, which is like a decade now. I can't even believe it, but yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Well, that's incredible, Chris, and believing in your team and what that has propelled the whole greater good for your program and your students. That is so inspiring. So about the full-time daytime program, before I kind of move on to something else, listeners, some of our listeners may be thinking about going to a radiography program, and they're in the greater Houston area. Where can they apply, and when is the application period? What are the steps? Can you give us an overview of that?
Yeah, definitely. So for our full-time program, our deadline is typically the first week of June. And so there's prerequisite courses that you have to take, just like any of the radiography programs that you're going to apply to. For our program, you have to take a college algebra course, a English Composition 1 course, and I believe anatomy and physiology. There's a HCC requirement of a student success course, which is like a college preparation course. But if you have 12 hours of credit at college level, you actually don't have to take that course. So it can be subbed in for a different course. So those are the 4 prereqs we have. You have to take the HESI exam, which is a placement exam that many other colleges use as well. And once you take those 2, you can ship off your application to us, and we will start reviewing them typically in June. And then after that in June, what we do is we hold interviews for a certain amount of the applicants. Radiography, this is a hot career choice right now. I mean, I can tell you right now, this is probably a very good field to get into right now, especially, with a lot of the things the professional organizations are doing to propel us forward. But in our application cycle last year, we had 270 people apply to our program. And we have 50 slots. So we had 270. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy because I'm not the program that is showcasing those numbers in Houston. Like if I talk to, our fellow colleges at Lone Star, they're getting upwards of 200 as well. And so it's just a field that a lot of people are getting exposed to, and which I think is great. It's great that they're getting exposed to this field, and our field is getting out there. But yeah, we interview roughly 130 students out of the 270, and then we further cut it down to 50 students after our interview period. But yeah, I think with a 50-person group, it's a bigger shot because a lot of the other programs are much smaller. We probably have one of the largest radiography programs in Houston, probably across the nation, because 50 students is a lot. And we're actually probably going to expand our full-time daytime program to maybe 55 students here in the near future.
Okay, great.
Yeah, just because we're seeing a lot of need for radiologic technologists across the greater Houston area. We graduated 37 or so, or 39 students last year, and pretty much every single student found a job or is working on like a advanced modality like CT or MRI. So the need for technologists is great. If you look at the ASRT white paper, it reports upwards of 18 to 24% across all imaging disciplines. So the need for imaging technologists is high, and so we want to make sure the Texas workforce is equipped with that by trying to get more students into our programs, because the whole thing is, and it pains me to say, but we accept 50 students, but we have a lot of qualified applicants still, right? There's plenty of qualified applicants.
Yeah.
It's just we can only accept 50, right? And that's just due to clinical sites. We don't have the availability. We're a pretty big program. We have about 27 clinical sites, but you got to realize we compete against 10 other schools in the Houston area for clinical space.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I said, I think we have a lot of good clinical availability and good clinical spaces, but we're not going to, try to invade in people's territory. If there's a school right next to the hospital, I'm not trying to go over there, right? It's more so, we're sharing the resources because, other organizations, other colleges are doing the same thing. They're trying to get the Texas workforce ready and filling the need of those radiologic technologists. So, like I said, the full-time daytime program, it's a great program. But that can be said about, tons of other programs here in Houston.
Well, great. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And we will definitely have a link to your website in our show notes so that interested folks can check it out. So moving on to a new venture, Chris, that you guys are starting at Houston Community College, and really one of the first, and correct me, maybe it's the first JRCERT accredited part-time program. Can you talk about that and why you were adamant about starting this very unique program?
Yeah, sure. There's other part-time programs across the nation. Very few, though. We would be one of the first that runs it in this fashion, where we target evening and weekend classes in clinic. The reason we did this is, when I looked at it, I'm not looking at just adding more students to add more students and things like that. We really want to target a demographic of students that's untapped, because there are plenty of individuals who have to work, Monday through Friday, 7 to 4 in their regular jobs, but they do want a career change. And so we put this program on proposal to see, the need, right? Because I'm not going to start anything if I don't get data. And so I surveyed like 400 students that have attended info sessions in the past.
Okay.
And when we surveyed the 400 students, typical response rates for like surveys that you like cold call send out is like less than 10%. We had like close to 25 to 30% response rates.
Wow.
Yeah. Overwhelmingly positive of trying to start a part-time program. A lot of people saying, oh, I don't have to quit my job. Oh, I don't have to do this and this and this. And so that's when we really started exploring it, because we want to target a demographic of people that, want to change their career, but they have to work. I like to tell my students, everybody got to eat. Right? Everybody has bills to pay. Everybody got, families to feed. And so, yeah. And so when we look at that, we have to understand that, hey, some people can't quit their jobs, but they do want to get into this field. And so when we consider that, the way we looked at it from a programmatic standpoint is, let's offer that option to some people.
Yeah.
Let's put that out there. Let's put this net out here, because this field has been good to us, right? It's been good to myself, my family, right? You yourself, Melanie, you be testament, right? it's been good to all of us. And so when we look at it, we want to look at it from a standpoint, well, we can really affect somebody's life that's really trying to change their job. And so, we wanted to offer that type of programming off cycle. That way we can target those individuals. This will be the first time we're doing it, so we're trial running it. And so we'll probably have a cohort of like 10 to 15 students that will run. But it's a part-time program in a sense that, the maximum amount of clinical hours you'll have to do in any semester, I think, is going to be like 18 hours. And that's usually in our later semesters where there's not as many classes attached as well. So it's kind of progressive. And the biggest thing is it's not that much longer than our full-time program. Our full-time program is 6 semesters. This part-time program is 8 semesters. So it's
Oh, wow.
so it's
Great.
so it's not actually, like a 3-year program or anything like that. It's about 6 extra months than our full-time program. We just spread the clinic out a little bit more to kind of incorporate some hours that may work for those that have to work. They can probably get into, their clinical rotations right after work or work on the weekends in clinic, because we were able to establish some partnerships with, a lot of our clinical affiliates. Because when you look at it from a standpoint from a clinical affiliate, a lot of their employees maybe they're a transporter or an imaging aide or a receptionist who has to work during those regular hours that our program offers during our full-time program, but they can't. And so we got an overwhelming response from when we pulled the clinical sites that, hey, we think this is an amazing idea. It gives these opportunities to some of our staff even that may try to attend this program.
That's great.
So yeah, like I said, I mean, it's just trying something new. And with the way the funding model works for community colleges nowadays, there's a new House bill. You're going to see a lot of different programming across all of, the imaging spectrums and even allied health as institutions try to be prepared for that new funding model. Because, right now, I think several other colleges in the Houston area are doing something similar and doing other things to attract students to their programs. And so we're not the only one. There's a lot more coming up, and like I said, as the new funding model is established, we'll start to see more of these programmings. Like I said, we did this before the funding model. We did it from a place of, hey, we're trying to help people, but it doesn't hurt that the new funding model kind of leads into what we're doing by accepting essentially a new group of students, a new cohort. So it all works out in the end.
Great. Well, I am glad to hear for programs that may be listening thinking, oh, wow, that would be great if we could do something like that, that the JRCERT, the gold standard of accrediting radiography programs, was open to this, and that you were able to get that done. That's definitely inspiring. I noticed some programs out there.
Yeah.
So to talk about this, you said this will be your first cohort. When is your application period for this? And talk about that.
Yeah, so the application period for this, since we're going to anticipate a summer start, so we're going to start this summer for this program, our application deadline will be, I think, the 3rd week of March. And so what this allows for us to do is to establish who's going to be in the cohort before they start, because we have to do interviews. We have to do all these, pre-screening measures before we get somebody in. And so March, like I said, the 3rd week of March, I think, is what we're going to anticipate being the deadline.
Okay.
And then we'll start interviewing shortly after that for a June-ish acceptance and a June start. But yeah, the curriculum, like I said, went through JRC approval, went to state. So all of this is approved. It's just a matter of implementing it and putting it into practice. And so, like I said, first times for everything. We're going to learn as we go. We have a established, guideline of how we're going to do things. But always the first time is always going to be the hardest, because you're going to still be learning of what may work and what may not. So again, that's why we kind of try to keep it smaller, a smaller cohort, just as we kind of explore the things that we need to do to make it run successfully long term. So
Great, great, great. Well, again, for our listeners, we will put that information about the program in the show notes. So please check out Houston Community College Radiography program. And I know they have monthly information sessions that you can attend as well. So, Chris, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. And I know that one of your passions is advocacy of the profession. And
yes.
so the Be Seen campaign that came out this past year, I know we have been talking about our last guest. We had Michael John Benzaya, who was the face of the Be Seen campaign. And so tell me what advocacy means to you and what you can share and inspire others to do to be active in a traditionally group of professionals that aren't so active as advocates. And we all have really got to get on board with this. So tell me what your take is on that.
Yeah, definitely, Melanie. It's tough, and you've been fighting this battle longer than I have, so you know it more than me. But when I was a student, I was in X-ray school as a high school student. Like I graduated at 20. Advocacy meant nothing to me. Right at 20 years old, graduated X-ray tech out there. That really didn't mean anything to me. But as you grow in the profession and you start to see things, then you realize advocacy is important. And it's only been, probably within the past, maybe 5 or 6 years that I really started harking on that, because I started seeing changes. And, when I look at things, it's kind of from a standpoint that, together we're stronger. Right. And so the more, yeah, right. The more,
cliche, but it's true.
Yeah. The more representation you have, the more weight your words will have also. And so it's important that, we are pushing that mentality out. And that's why I always stress to our faculty that we're in a perfect opportunity. We're training the next generation of people. And so we need to push this as something that's important. And so building curricula that builds and lends on, hey, advocacy is important. Fighting for what is yours is important, right? Once you become a technologist, you're bought in now too to being a technologist, right? Do you want somebody to steal your job because people think that pressing this button is all you do? Yeah. And so, when you look at it from that perspective, I try to play on some things, because we get plenty of students who this may be their second or third career choice. And I, try to point out that, you're coming here because you potentially may have been laid off or something could happen there. What do you think might happen if we don't fight for our own profession here? They might start to think, hey, why do we need an X-ray tech? Right. And so there's millions of bills that get put out, all the time. And ASRT tries their hardest to really funnel, resources to these states so that, the state societies can fight, any legislation like that. But it's important the state society is active to fight in those battles. I think that, playing on training the new professionals, the new students, we have to, as educators, I think it's our duty to. Many educators, I think Dr. Undy from MD Anderson did a survey of how many educators are probably close to retirement in this time frame, and it's a lot.
A lot.
Right? There's a lot.
Yes.
And so the former torchbearers of the advocacy efforts are going away. And so when you look at that, who holds the torch after you? Right? I kind of look at it as like a race. right? Relay race. Who do you pass the baton to after all those people have been fighting for 20, 30, 40 years,
Yep.
right? We have to pass it on to the next generation who should be more informed, because they're going to get they're going to get all the information, and they can push it further than you. I think a lot of the things ASRT is doing now is a testament to that, right? We had people fighting, and then we get a new CEO, we get a new president, and the efforts are, higher. They're off the charts nowadays. Like you said, the Be Seen campaign, getting a commercial on like public TV. Who would have thought?
Olympics. Yeah.
Yeah. During the Olympics, during America's Got Talent, these are like heavy hitting shows.
For sure.
And who would have thought that, we as radiologic technologists would have that sort of, representation in that form. And so, the Be Seen campaign is a great campaign that I think, hopefully gets a lot of people bought into the efforts that the ASRT does, and state organizations, because all of these organizations are really fighting for the best interests of technologists. They're not just there to say, "Oh, give me your $10 or $35," and that's what we're here for. No, they like really use that money to pay lobbyists to fight for your behalf, and so when the bills come up where it's like MPs, PAs, they want to shoot x-rays, right? And so the efforts and the money goes towards hiring lobbyists to fight and combat that, because we know as radiologic technologists, we are the individuals that have that information and the knowledge for medical imaging procedures. It's not a one day course that somebody can take, right? It's something that you learned over the course of 2 years. And so why are you letting somebody diminish your value? And, that's, a big thing. Brandon Smith always says, whenever I talk to him, don't diminish what you do. Don't let anybody tell you the value you bring, because when you actually look at it and you research it, radiology makes hospitals money. And so
we are the income of the hospitals. Our jobs pay the salaries of the employees. And if it were looked at that way, we might carry a little more weight even in those jobs, but that doesn't really happen. But we need those voices, like you're saying.
But exactly. And like over the course of the past few years, salaries have increased a lot. I would say in medical imaging, just from, the surveys I do, and, just the people I talk to. And when you look at it, it's because people are starting to understand that, after COVID, when people started striking and saying, "Hey, we're not going to take your CTs no more." And then people at the hospitals were like, "Okay, go ahead, strike." And then they realized, a CT is $5,000 to $15,000 for every CT somebody does. And so that adds up really quick. And you start to see salaries, really come up. And all of that is our standing. And so when you have organizations like ASRT that fight for your standing, you should want to back them, because ultimately it will come down to increases in pay. Because if they're backing you and saying, "Dang, you need to recognize our individuals for the work they do," well, what do you think happens after that? Oh, yeah, they're actually bringing so much revenue to the hospital. Let's raise salaries, right? It's something that people don't really think about, but it happens, right? The more recognition you get, the more money you will get. I try to tell my
bonuses out there now. I have never seen anything like this in my life, and they're even saying new grads welcome. I saw one the other day, $45,000 sign-on bonus. Mind blowing. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how desperate they are. And so we, as you're saying, technologists, we need to pay our $125 a year to ASRT, our whatever, $50 to our state organization, whatever state you're in, there likely is an organization, because they are an affiliate of ASRT, and they are all connected for the greater good of our profession.
And I think, touching back on that, you can lend the past of other organizations to see what can be done for our profession, right? And love nurses, right? You can see the avenues they've taken to fight for what was theirs, right?
Because they're
Because they are
organized.
direct. Yeah,
They're
they're
organized.
direct.
That's why.
They're direct patient care contact. They're on the front lines. And, they weren't looked at as anything if you were to go back 20, 30 years ago, but they fought for what was theirs. And so
That's right.
now you can have an NP see you at an urgent care before you even see a doctor, right? Because they fought for those roles. And
Right.
not to push anything, but like when you look at ASRT, they're making a push because the markup bill has been introduced to the Senate, which would allow for radiologist assistants to be able to bill for procedures. That's something very important. It may not affect you as a technologist, but having a mid-level type provider under our umbrella is very important. It will do wonders for the whole profession. And who knows, 10 years down the line, you may want to go become a radiologist assistant, right?
Yeah.
Because that might be something that you see working. Because in all honesty, there are some states that hire RAs and they love them because the workload is much more shared between the department. The radiologist isn't having to do a whole bunch of things. He or she can really focus in on, the complex issues, while we have our advanced level radiologic technologists performing, a barium swallow, right?
Yeah.
Something they've seen probably hundreds of over the course of their career.
Right.
And so it's important that we push these things. It's important we advocate for ourselves. You can see the way other organizations have done, and it's very important for us to do the same.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the markup bill. This, guys listening, you can contact your U.S. representatives and senators and write the letter. And if you look, I have not looked, but I will look before we get this out on ASRT to see if they may even have a standardized letter that you can send. So it's not hard to do. It's a few minutes of your time. And as Chris indicated, having RAs in our pipeline and our world of healthcare, look what PAs did for physicians so long ago, because that definitely allows for them to have an extended network of care to care for more patients and lessen the wait times and so forth. So we're looking to do the same thing with radiology extenders, radiology assistants.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Chris, I'm going to ask one other thing, and I'm just because I've known you long enough to think about this, and I was looking over my notes for today. So, Chris, what made you want to go into being an educator from the technologist and the CT technologist side?
Valid question. When I was a student, I volunteered to be a tutor for our program. And so, so when I tutored for our program, that really sparked my interest in helping people understand concepts, better. Becoming a technologist was great, right? I loved the work I did. But when I really switched over to education, I saw value in what I was doing. Not to say I didn't see any value in what I was doing as a technologist, but I literally saw the value of what I was doing as an educator. Because, in imaging, we know that we are aiding in the process of patients getting better. We know this. This is a fact that's undisputable. But you don't really get to follow up with patients as often as other, professions, right? Like a nurse. A nurse will be able to have the same patient maybe for months or whatever. So they're able to follow up on the progression of their patients to get better. For us, we're doing our procedure. We know our procedure will aid in that process, but we don't get to see the follow through. With education, you see the follow through. Every single day, I see the follow through. Seeing students who had to bus to clinic 2 hours, right? 2 hours one way.
Yeah.
Each day, to now when you see them on, Instagram or Facebook, they're traveling the world,
Isn't that
right?
wonderful?
And you would have never, and we have so many students like that. We're able to change and impact students' lives, but also their future generations' lives, right? Because we see that. We see it happening. We're moving people from maybe a lower socioeconomical background to one that, you can do whatever you choose to if you're a radiologic technologist. I can attest to that. If you're willing to put in the effort and work, you can do anything. Some of the technologists I know, they open their own businesses, right? Because they fund it from them working as a technologist.
Yeah.
And so there's so many avenues that I see teaching as being something that really, really is something that I feel I am doing the right thing. And I think, you as an educator yourself, you can say the same. Any educator can say the same. One of the things is I walk with one of my colleagues, Roger Brumgardner. We'll walk through the halls and he knows somebody in this hall, right? That life he changed because they were his students 20, 30 years ago, and they still remember him because of the impact he had on their life. And so, the profound impact you can have as an educator is there. And so that's kind of how I drive and kind of push our faculty every single day, is we're making impacts that will go far beyond what we do right here in the classroom. These people, we are changing their lives. And so we should act like it. We should want to grow every single day. We should try to advocate ourselves to grow better for our students because, we are impacting their lives so much. And so that's really why I really love teaching. As a program director, I don't get to teach as much, which is horrible. But
Right.
I pick up other places where I can at least lecture a class here and there to try to still do that, because I just genuinely love teaching. I took program director because I was voluntold, right? Like many people are. So it wasn't something that was I want to do, but I'll do it, and if nobody else wants to, I'll lead our
Sure.
program to the best I can. But yeah, teaching, it's such a great career, such a great career choice. And I try to tell all students, it's a good career choice to look into if that's what you want. But in any case, like, there's so many opportunities in radiology. Like, when students graduate, they have so many open doors. My dad's an X-ray tech. And so
I know you're a legacy, Chris.
Yeah, right. So
his dad is an X-ray tech at the VA in Houston. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the reason I chose this career as a high school student is there's so many options you can take, right? There's so many modalities you can choose. If you choose to go into applications or sales, you can go into that. I have plenty of classmates who no longer are on the patient care side, but they're on like the clinical application side. They're, managing a whole bunch of other things and selling equipment to people. And so there's so many different avenues you can take, which is a great thing for our profession. And I think really that's what we're seeing, that people want to enter our field because of the options.
Absolutely.
There's so many options now that, every time I talk to students ask about, other opportunities that they can have. And, that's our field. There's so many opportunities that you can have. We're past the point where, if you work in a hospital, you're a doctor or nurse, right? We've come to a point now where I think radiologic technologists, that's up there now. People know about our field, and they should. We're the medical imaging professionals, like Brandon Smith will point out to you whenever he can. We're the third largest group of medical providers. And so we should act like it, right? We should
we should, and be
act
proud.
like it.
And
Yeah,
I hear
definitely.
that, I'm just the X-ray tech. I hate hearing somebody say that. No, you are the technologist in the room. And anybody else in there usually can say that. So, like in the OR. So,
exactly.
I'm just the tech. Don't ever say you're just the tech. You are the technologist. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, Brandon will have a lot to say. He's coming on the show as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, Guy can talk. He can talk for days.
And he's in sales and applications, so yeah, he can do that very well. Oh, that's funny. Well, Chris, I appreciate you so very much as a friend and a colleague. And as I'm hearing you talk about, taking that decision to be an educator, I'm just like going back down memory road with you and memory lane with you. And I'm just so proud of you and so thankful to have you as a friend and a colleague. And thank you for being on the show so much.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I owe a lot to the people that come before me. You helped me out when I was just a fledgling, educator, right? I was nobody back then. And you took a shot on me just like, Roger took a shot on me, just like all of my former faculty who became my colleagues did on me. It's always important that we pay respect to all the people that came before us because they were the ones that paved the path for us to be successful. And so, that's how I try to model myself. I'm paving a path for the people that come behind us. I try to tell our faculty every day, we build up our students to be better than us. We don't, they get to learn from us.
Think about that. Yes, that's true.
They get to learn from us what we learned from, some great individuals. And so they get to take our knowledge with the knowledge and they only get better. You see it all the time. The people that come after you, you want them to be better than you. I want them to do more things than I have ever done in this field. I want every single student to achieve everything I couldn't, right, in this field. So, that's the way we look at it. And like I said, I really thank you for taking that opportunity on me in 2014. I still remember,
wow.
coming and working out there, so, but yeah, definitely. I really appreciate you having me on this show because shows like this are important. I was on another podcast and I said the same thing to Lazar. He has a podcast as well, that these avenues are important for our profession and our professionals to be able to tell their story, because being able to tell your story makes our profession relatable and it makes our profession real. And seeing the people that are working on a day-to-day basis for these, for our profession to get better is important. And there's plenty. And I'm sure you're going to have plenty of great guests on this show that can attest to that. So again, thank you for having me on. It was a great experience.
Thank you, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, y'all. Melanie Hale here with Advanced Health Education Center in Houston, Texas. AHEC has been a leading provider of continuing education for healthcare professionals in the imaging sciences since 1988. Our mission is to provide you, the radiologic technologist, physician, sonographer, nurse, and allied health professional with evidence-based education and training that increases your knowledge, enhances your competency, and overall improves patient care. Technologist. Has the time come to learn a new modality? Are you limited in your resources and, more importantly, time available to learn a new modality? AHEC is here to help. We have online and in-person delivery methods available for mammography, bone densitometry, sonography, CT, and MRI. AHEC also offers CME for physicians, including in-person ultrasound training. We have continuing education available via live webinar, on demand, at-home study, and in person. We offer specialized corporate training classes both online and in person. Do you have a specific staff training need? We will come to you. Want to host a continuing education event for your staff and community? Hey, we do that too. Did you know AHEC also offers mammography consulting services? We provide on-site services to assist with regulatory inspection issues, as well as accreditation reviews. Our consultants can design an acceptable compliance plan or a plan of action to correct deficiencies specific to your facility. Check us out at aheconline.com. Check us out wherever you social, like, follow, subscribe, and stay in touch with the many course offerings, events, and stackable learning courses we offer. Have a specific need? Give us a call at the office, 800-239-1361. Make the change from cheap continuing education to affordable, quality education that you can use. It's time to invest in yourself. Hey guys, welcome to Melanie's Takeaways from the podcast. Today we had Christopher Daza, Program Director of the Houston Community College Radiography Program in Houston, Texas. And Chris made a few points that I really want to bring out and just have to take away that we can all use, regardless if we work in education or we're in the hospital or we're in an imaging center or we're in sales or applications. And I think it was very important, some key points that he made, and I want to talk about those for a moment. He mentioned when he became the program director there that there were, you hear things, and I've been in this situation myself where, well, we've always done it this way, or this is how we've always done things, as if to say that things can't change, that this worked, but maybe there is another way. And so Chris came in with a vision for, in his particular situation, for increasing student retention, student engagement, graduation rates. I mean, he wanted to increase those numbers across the board. And these are all things that were measured in education. But maybe you are a manager in a hospital and you want to manage patient satisfaction scores or employee satisfaction scores or whatever that might be. Maybe you've got a vision to really increase morale. And just because something has been done a particular way, whatever part of the bigger plan that is, there are new ways to do things. There are maybe another way to get to that and increase those outcomes that you're looking to increase. And so don't be discouraged if someone tells you, well, that's not how we do things. We've always done it this way. There are ways to approach that, and don't get discouraged by that. Have the greater vision, move forward with that. Don't lose sight of that and why you started on that journey. That kind of leads into the second point that I want to bring out Chris made is he believed in his faculty. He wanted to be sure they had the autonomy to meet the outcomes that he was trying to realize. Again, this is an example in education. But whatever team you have, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's a goal, a sales goal, or patient satisfaction. Once again, employee satisfaction. Maybe the morale is low on your shift, and you have some ideas that you can want to implement, but you don't want to micromanage your team. You want to give them the autonomy to try and realize that outcome or that goal that you've set. And they may not do it the way you would do it, and that's okay. I'm going to tell you, I cannot stand, and those of you that know me are going to laugh out loud when you hear this, I cannot stand to be micromanaged. Give me a goal, and I'm going to figure out a way to get there, whether I've done it before or not. So I've learned with students, I have learned with faculty, I've learned with coworkers, different jobs that I've had. If it's something that we all need to get to, I'm going to say, okay, here's what we need to do. And if there is a timeline involved, then set that. Step back and let them go. I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you have questions. They're not going to do it the way you would have done it. If you're going to do everything yourself anyway, then you would have done that. But you want to have a team. I used to say in a couple of different groups of folks that I worked with, I don't want another me. I'm not sure the world could take it anyway, but I don't want another me. I don't need another me. I need that person with a big empathetic heart, because I'm not always that person, especially when it came to students. I would like, nope, this is the rule and this is what we're doing. But I need that on my team. I need someone who is super good with coming up just with abstract creative ideas. I can get in that mind space. I can get in that mindset, but I don't always live there. And there are some that do, and I need that. So utilize your team, your faculty, your coworkers, your shift that's working with you, and they have strengths that you don't. And that's good. And that's what makes a great team. So let them have that autonomy. Say, here's the goal we want to realize, guys. I am open to your ideas and how we can realize those goals and get to that point as a team. So autonomy is important. And lastly, whatever your goal is in this little rabbit hole I'm running down with in these takeaways, make it better than it was when you started. Chris talked about that in education, and I was an educator for 26 years. You want to make what you are being a part of as faculty, as leaders, that you want this group, particular cohort you're teaching, to be better than what was before, to be better than what you were, what you're leaving behind, because we are here for such a short time. He talked about Dr. Undy's study of educators in imaging that are aging out. I'm in that group. I'm close to retirement. I'm not planning to retire anytime soon, but I'm not in education anymore, so I've kind of stepped away from that. And they are leaving and retiring, and that the group of educators is shrinking. So it is so important. Whether you're an educator, a technologist, maybe you're a technologist that works with students every day, how important it is to make it better than the way you found it. I did a lecture a few months ago talking about, asked the group of technologists that I was doing a lecture for, and we all remember that one tech that every student avoided working with because they were just a bear, or I don't work well with students. I'm not student friendly. Try not to leave that behind. You know what that felt like. So be sure that you're remembering where you came from and give that back. Make it better than what it was for you in that experience, because we all remember that tech or at those places that were not friendly to students. They were very hard to work with, but yet you still had to make it to the end of the semester one way or another without running away crying every day. So get back to that. Educators, technologists, whatever role you're in, we're not going to be here forever. And it is important to leave it better than you found it. So I'm going to close with that. And guys, share this podcast. Like us on all the socials. Share this with your colleagues. I don't care if you get a good laugh. Melanie Hale started a podcast. That's okay. You can share. We want to get out in front of new folks. I want to thank John Largent, my producer at Largent Media. He didn't know what he was taking on when he got me, but yay, thank you, John. We both have roots in East Texas, and we found some commonality there, so I'm thankful of that. Thanks so much, John, for your patience and your guidance in this journey. And guys, go out and make a difference. Go out and do something great for somebody else. Again, we're here for such a short time. Peace, love, and rad, y'all.